Happy Monday, everybody out there. This is Crystal Jordan, and you all know what time it is. It is Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, so it is time for reality check. And today we have back to back reality checks, you guys. We have a very important, very special couple that's going to come on and talk to us about rich relationships. And then I want you to stay right here. If you're watching via YouTube, if you're watching via YouTube, stay tuned because we have exactly at 9 o'clock, we're going to have Dakia from Ready to Love. I know you guys are ready for that conversation. um, and of course, if you're watching via Facebook right here on Rolling Out, you can stay tuned because we are coming right back with Miss Dakia and her story, and that's going to be amazing. But first, I wanted to bring this couple. I saw their page on social media and I thought, we do so much conversation here about relationships, especially Black love and Black relationships, but we do a lot of conversation about how things started. I don't know if you guys saw the interview I did with the matchmakers from Love Match Atlanta. We had a great conversation about how do people find love and how do people compatibility versus chemistry, and all of that is great, and we love the narrative that we've heard so much about, but once you get in a relationship, then what? And I can tell you from my own personal experience, you guys that have been watching this channel know I got married in October. And I was one of these women that followed the narrative on social media about Black women and how it's hard to find a good man. And there's a lot out there that suggests you don't. But when you do, when you believe and you speak positivity and you do find that man, then I'm like, uh-oh, the work really starts then. So I want you guys to help me welcome Gil and Renee Beavers. They have a site called Rich Relationships, and we're talking about real relationships. This couple has been married for 37 years of friendship, marriage, and true partnership. So I am so honored to welcome them to Reality Check. You guys, please help me welcome the very beautiful Renee Beavers and her husband, the very handsome Gil.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much. Thank you.
Welcome to Reality Check. How are you all doing this Monday evening?
We're doing I just got done cleaning the pool. Wonderful.
That's that work that comes in.
There you go. There you go. Well, I mentioned that, you guys I was attracted to your page from the title, like Rich Relationships. And we hear a lot of people talking, especially nowadays, this whole idea of being relationship goals and being this power couple. And I thought, you know what, let me have a real power couple, because for a couple to be able to have stayed together for 37 years, which is a lifetime for some people, and still to be excited about it and still to be helping other couples and inspiring other couples. What is the secret sauce that the two of you have discovered that has led to this beautiful relationship that you've been able to use as motivation for others?
He has a sauce and I have a sauce, so you share.
No, you go ahead.
I would say because it is different for men and women.
Okay.
And we've been married 33 years. We dated for 3 years before we got married. So we have been together for 37. This year will be 38 years.
Wow.
But I think a part of it is the first thing that I would say, the most important part is that you have to know who you are as an individual. Before you can give yourself away, you have to know who that person is. And so I think that the first thing is really establishing a relationship with God and knowing who you are and who you are not.
Okay.
I think that was the most important part for us, was because I think that sometimes when you go into it expecting this other person to complete you and get rid of all of your stress and be your knight in shining armor and solve your problems and complete you and all these things we hear, we come to the relationship with this big expectation for another human being. And I think that that's overwhelming, and I think that it's unrealistic.
And that kind of goes into, she's stealing some of my sauce, y'all. It's the expectations. When you start out that relationship, dating is the most deceptive time in your relationship. You're actually just starting out because you're always putting your best face forward. You always want to show just the good parts of you and try to minimize those things that may be a little more challenging, that you may not want to bring out at the very beginning because you don't want that person to run off. So when you bring those expectations or those unrealistic expectations into the relationship, it kind of makes it a lot more difficult to be honest as you grow. So one of the things that we always talk about when we first got married was, or even first started dating, was I wanted to know the real Renee. I wanted to see her for who she was and try to see her for who she really is, the good, the bad, the ugly, because when the lights go off and the camera goes off and you get off the phone, that's where the real work is going to start, where you actually have to deal with this person and all the things that they've had to do throughout their lifetime. And that's where the real work. So she stole a little bit of my sauce, though.
I think for us, because we didn't have social media.
Right.
You know, we only had dates and phones, and our phones were like the size of like a bag, you know, like a purse.
I remember, we used to dial. We used to dial up.
Get wrapped around the cord and all that.
Yeah.
And so I think we really had an unfair advantage because we really had to learn how to communicate face to face. We had to learn really early how to deal with death and loss and separation. So we had all those obstacles at the beginning of our relationship, and we were both really young. So I didn't have anything to compare it to.
Yeah. Being young sometimes can be a help, I think, because I know for me, when I got married for the first time at 20, 21, very young. But one of the things that I wasn't already formed into who I am, and so now we see people getting married much later, and we see that, roles have continued to evolve. So we have so many women that are accomplished and doing so much and have, really set in their ways. And I'm just speaking from my personal example. And the chat, you guys let me know if you agree. Hey, Tiffany. Hey, lovely True Red. Thank you guys for tuning in. But you all let me know how you feel. But I know for me, getting married in my mid 40s, it's very different because I am who I am in a much different way than I was at 21. And so I want to ask you all, because this idea of sharing too much too soon, or knowing when to share or when to feel safe enough to be vulnerable with that person, that can be difficult, during dating, but you have to do it in order to get to the next level. So what would be your advice to couples, if they're dating or even just starting out, because you want to share, but you're also a little bit concerned or maybe even afraid of how that person is going to react to your realness, your rawness, that those flaws that you have that you may not even be comfortable with. So what would be your advice on being able to, okay, how do we date? How do we get to know each other? How do we be in relationship, but also allow the person to see the real version of myself and trust that if they're the right person, that's not going to run them away?
I think that what you said, it kind of answers the question. If it's the right person, you being who you really are is going to attract them. Because I think, looking back on it, Gil's mom and dad were divorced. My mom was never married. I had a lot of things I was insecure about, and I felt very insignificant compared to his family. But I had to overcome that and just say, if either he's going to like me or he's not. I've never been one to give into peer pressure. So I just felt like, well, either he's going to like me or he's not. And to me, if I run him off because I'm being my real self, then he needs to just go anyway.
You see it now in this day and time that we're in. It's the roles have seemed like they've reversed, where now more women are in power positions and they are accomplished and they've accomplished things in their lives, and they want to be settled in their own way first. And now the guys feels, I think, just talking to them, they feel like they got to play catch up almost, to where they may have been, I won't say neglecting, not all, but it's just been that new change or that new way of thinking that they have to change to adapt to the way things are now, and understand that women today are not like what you may have remembered or seen in some of these older movies where they're very passive and those things of just complacent or whatever you want to call it, where you expect them to, now they're actually pursuing you, but you have to be ready to be understood to say, you know what, I need to have my things in place, but also be just as confident and comfortable in my own skin that this person that I want to partner in with or be in a relationship with, I'm coming into it as a helpmate, to help them not only come alongside of them so they can continue to be accomplished in what they're doing, but also help me understand that this person has helped me become a better man. Even just being in a relationship helped me understand some things that I may have neglected or overshadowed by my own pursuit and careers and industry and those types of things that I have neglected, that I may not have been prepared for in a relationship. So it's a partnership.
It's a partnership. That leads me to this next, actually a comment from the audience. Tiffany says, Crystal, can you ask what did each of them think about marriage? Meaning, what value did it have for them? I love the fact, Renee, that you acknowledge that you didn't grow up seeing that. And for many of us that didn't, I didn't see it either. It can feel very intimidating because the first thing people say, well, you don't even know what marriage looks like. You don't even know what a successful relationship is. So what value, when you all both came into this, and then you can share with us how it grew, what value did you place on marriage being, this is it? This is not something that if I get tired or I get angry or I change my mind, I can get out of. How did both of you guys come into this? She says, with a lot of people thinking it's not a big deal and being so quick to divorce, what was your idea on the sacred, how sacred marriage was?
I didn't want to get married.
Okay.
I didn't want to have kids. I had no desire for that. I just wanted to be able to live on my own and have my own money and be able to take care of myself. This lady told me, you're going to meet someone that's going to change the way you view that. Just be prepared for that. And when Gil and I started dating, as I began to, because his whole thing, I'll let him share his, but we had totally different views on marriage and relationships.
And I wanted to actually be married as long as I could remember. I wanted to have just a one type of relationship long term. And because even though my parents got divorced at an early age, I seen a glimpse of what it was like. And I wanted that. Even at a young age, it was weird because I thought I was a little odd because I wanted to have this one type where my friends may have dated a bunch of girls and a lot of different things. And I was never really attracted to that. So I came into this with the mindset of this is the person I want to not waste a lot of time with because I want to do something long term from the very beginning. So I went into it with the pursuit of that, where I didn't think about divorce as an option for me because I seen how detrimental it can be not only to the individual, but also to the family and the extended friends and all those people. It doesn't just hurt the two that are involved with it. It hurts a lot of other people. And I think society now has trivialized relationships and even marriage to the point to where, you know what, if I don't like it, I just throw it away and go get a new one, and it shouldn't be that way. Things that we believe in our personal life as Christians, that we go into it with a different mindset. We don't expect everyone to have the Christian mindset, but that's the foundation of where it started. That's just what we have to go by.
And I think because I saw how much divorce hurt him.
Yeah.
When we did decide to get married, I was like, this is forever. Till death do us part. There's no such thing as you got to make it work. And so I think we both went into it with the mindset, once I decided I did want to get married to him, I knew that it was going to be forever. I knew I wasn't going to get a divorce. I knew I wasn't. And I made that. We don't even say the D word. We took it out of our vocabulary. It's like, that's not even an option. We're going to make it work. And not about being miserable. We want to make the relationship one where we're not just coexisting, we're just not just faking it, where we really like each other. And so that's what we have worked on for all these years, really having a real relationship with each other, ourselves and each other.
I like that. I want to ask you this because I talked to a lot of, I literally, like I said, just got married in October, was single for a long period of time. And a lot of my girlfriends and I, you hear people say, well, they grew apart. And there's that, well, you know what? If people grow apart, they grow apart. How did you all combat the idea of growing apart? Because I assume everyone could grow apart in 37 years. We can all grow in many different directions. Right. So what do you say to that argument of if you grow apart, you grow apart? Because a lot of people feel like that's the irreconcilable difference that a lot of marriages, fall into. How did you all keep from falling into that trap?
I think that's an escape. I think that's like going into it with a way out. I knew that it was going to be work, and I knew that because we are human, we're prone to drift. It's just human nature. But what do you do when something drifts? You give it an anchor. And so we chose to have the Bible as our anchor, and we chose that if I loved him enough to say I was going to marry him, then I'm going to work at being his friend and being his lover and being his companion. So it's something you have to intentionally do. We still date each other. Even when we had the kids, we still made sure that we made time for each other as a couple. So we made the marriage the priority. It was something we consciously and intentionally have worked at, and we still do it even now.
And change is going to happen. It's inevitable. It's when people fail to adapt to the changes that are happening in the relationship. That's when they start drifting apart. They forget about the things that drew them together as a couple when they were even dating all the way back to the very beginning. And careers are going to come into play, and maybe some extended family things are going to come into play. The dynamics of your own family may change. when children come alongside, if that's the case may be, where you have to understand going into the relationship, change is inevitable. It's going to happen. You can't ignore it. You can't just bury it away and say, you know what, I'm just going to do my own thing. Because if you keep that single mindset, you're going to find yourself single in the long run.
Ah, that's a good reality check, guys. Reality check alert for tonight. If you keep the single mindset, you're going to find yourself single in the long run. And what Renee just said was huge as well. When things are going to start to drift. So when things start to drift, you need an anchor. That is huge, because we do know with growth, time. I'm a very different person than I was at 21. I'm a different person than I was at 31.
Yes.
Headed towards being a different person than at 41. We change consistently. So that was key. If you're just tuning in, we are talking rich relationships with a couple that actually can stand behind that tagline, rich relationships, Gil and Renee Beavers. And I want you all to talk about, you've been together for a total of 37 years, married 33 years. You have a workbook for couples. My husband and I are going to, I'm going to order this tonight and make sure that we start this workbook, because I realize that it is a process. And I love the fact that I have this platform that I'm able to really talk about love and celebrate love, especially within our community, from a positive perspective. So let's talk about this workbook. And how did you all come up with the idea to put this together?
Well, during the pandemic, we did an anthology. We had 20 other couples all over the country, and all of them shared their story. We came up with topics that we knew couples struggled with, and each of the couples wrote about those areas. And the feedback I kept getting was, I love the book, but I need more. And so, because we work with couples and because we do assessments and we do couples, exercises and counseling and facilitating, Gil and I were like, well, why don't we come up with a workbook so that, we say work on your marriage, why not come up with a workbook? And so that's how we came up with the workbook, because you can't tell people to work on their relationship and not tell them
how to do it, right?
Exactly. When we first got married, I always tell this little quick story was, we got married and I came back to work after our little wedding and quick little honeymoon, and talking to somebody older who had been married for a little while. And they say, well, if you want to have a good marriage, you just got to work on it. And I was like, okay, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me nothing. They didn't have one piece of advice to offer. And that stuck with me, because it said, you know what? Everybody knows marriage is work, but they don't know what the work is.
Right. And so we wanted to take the mystery out of that and not just give people wise sayings or catchphrases, but to give them something they can actually, because I was talking to a friend today, she said, it's funny that the things that mean the most in life, we're not trained on how to do it. Yeah. Having kids, getting married. Now I said, well, that's what we do. We provide couples, people who are dating and single, with the ability to really get to know yourself and to learn how to communicate, how to deal with conflict resolution, how to deal with money. All of those are topics that people really struggle with. Mm-hmm. And because most of us are so private, we don't want people to know we're struggling. So with a workbook, you can get the help you need without feeling like you're being exposed.
The hard part about that sometimes is it's work. It's work, individual work. The longest journey you're going to take is inward. That's when you start having to dig deep. And that's what the workbook was really designed to do, is to say, you know what? It challenges you by asking these questions that may not have been asked before, where you start doing it and you have to think about it. You have to start digging through maybe some past things, some things that are unresolved, and when you it's something about putting it pen to paper and writing it down, where you can go back and look at it and say, oh, wow, I remembered that. I remember something that triggered that I need to either change or I need to incorporate. So like you mentioned earlier, that I don't grow apart or we don't drift from each other, that we can work on this together. That's where the real work on our relationship comes in.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to talk more about the workbook, but I want to ask you guys, because I know we see what's happening on social media. I know you guys, a big part of your ministry is on the website and on social media. And you see, all this conversation. I want to say, first of all, before I mention this, I want to say rest in peace to Kevin Samuels, and definitely give our condolences to his family. Yeah. A horrible tragedy, just unexpected tragedy. And he was at the center of a lot of these conversations about relationships, especially as it relates to Black men and Black women. And there does seem to be a disconnect, with us understanding one another. What do you see when you look at social media and you see some of these conversations coming up about um, relationships and high value men and high value women, and women wanting men for money and men wanting women for the way they look? What is your thoughts on just the way we are perceiving and the way we are speaking about how we form relationships and the value of relationships in today's culture?
The thing that I love about what you said was that you looked at what we are doing and you saw that we had evidence to back it up.
Yes.
So I feel like you can't take me where you've not gone.
Mm.
So people
Mm-hmm.
are following people who are only creating clickbait,
Yeah.
and there's no substance behind, and there's no evidence to support what they're saying. So I always felt like, to me, I learn from examples. I learn from listening. So I want to find people who are doing what I want to
Mm-hmm.
do and follow them. Because why do I have to learn from experience? It's such a hard teacher. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that we live in a society where we're very clickbait and entertainment oriented
Yes.
without there really being any evidence or substance to back
Mm-hmm.
it up. So that's why we have these beautiful feeds and horrible lives.
So,
Mm.
and I will
That's
say,
it.
go ahead,
Yes.
go ahead.
No. I just was wanting to give my two snaps.
She does that a lot. She does that a lot. I'm like, whoa. Sometimes I have to catch myself and keep the face. I'm like,
That was
whoa.
really good,
I
and
got a
it's so
notepad
true.
right here because I have to write stuff down when she says stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, that's got to be something.
So we
Write
want
that
to live a
down.
beautiful life in an okay feed, not a beautiful feed and a fake and an awful life.
Yes.
One of the things I was going to say is in our day and times right now, unfortunately, we have a lot of people that want good business ventures and business partners, but they don't want life partners and people that they can grow with. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to really do again, we talk about it all the time when we work with couples and when we do our things and talks and speeches and courses and all that. It's personal growth, it's personal journey that you do as a couple that's going to really do the heavy lifting in your relationships. If
Right.
you are failing to do some self-examination about the things that you're struggling with, we don't say we call them growth areas. We don't say you have weaknesses, you just have areas that you need to grow in. We talks about, but you also have strengths. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we work on our strengths and neglect and forget about the growth areas, and that's where the problems really start. So when you see it in social media and out there in society where everybody's just talking about the strengths, everybody's just telling you all the good stuff. But
Yeah.
then when you say, well, give me something like you just asked, give me something to work with. Give me something. So if I say, go work on yourself and go do some self-examinations about the things that hurt you when you were little and that you're carrying into your next relationships, that's not a quick response. You're going to have to
Mm-hmm.
go back and think about it and say, wow, why do I do what I do now that is sabotaging my relationships now?
Yeah, that's so true. I think I'm convinced that what happened to us before the age of 10,
Mm,
it does not, unless you, and even sometime with therapy and with help, it still is there,
oh
but
yeah.
it really shapes the issues or the growth areas that you
Yes.
will need to deal with later on. What are some of the biggest things, because you guys work with couples a lot, what are some of the issues that you see people dealing with in real time, outside of what we're talking about on social media that's salacious? What are some of the things that you see couples grappling with when they come to sit with you all?
The number one is communication.
Communication. Or only dealing with the symptom. We find where couples come and talk and we're listening to them, and really there are no such thing as marriage problems. There are problems that you have as an individual that you bring into your marriage, but we all have those issues. And so we blame marriage, but marriage is
Mm,
the classroom where all that stuff is exposed. So then you blame marriage. Well, no, you
mm,
had that problem when you were single. You had it with your aunt and your cousins and your coworkers, but you didn't spend enough time with them. So marriage is a classroom where all that stuff is exposed. And so I think that sometimes couples want to deal with the symptom, and we're always like, okay, well, that's a symptom. Well, the real issue is that you don't communicate, or you
mm,
don't know how to be transparent, or you don't know how to be vulnerable. You know how to be aggressive, but you don't know how to be assertive. And so just helping people to get the right tools and the right terminology for what they make, because people think that talking is communication. The most important part of communication is listening.
mm-hmm,
And so
mm.
you have to kind of reframe the way people see things. So we always say that we're very results oriented. We're not going to just worry about how you got on the floor. We want to help you get up and then show you how not to get down there again. And then later on, you can on your own time deal with how you got down there. But you need to know how to get up and have the tools so that you don't keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, because when we sit down with the couples and we talk about communication and assertive speech and those things, those terms, we kind of try to reframe it to maybe way they've been operating before. That now you have to think about it a little bit different and start saying, you know what, let's work on listening first. Because if and one little simple exercise that we do is if you have a problem with your spouse or your significant other or whoever, you ask them to what's the problem and see if they can explain it to you, and then you repeat it back to them exactly like they said it, not thinking about what you want to respond to, not thinking about, well, I'm gonna say this. Well, then that means you didn't hear them. That means you didn't listen to what they had to say. So therefore, you're not going to understand where they're coming from and you're going to miss it. And then guess what? That cycle starts all over again.
Is infidelity a symptom of another issue?
Yes. Most of the things that we make a big deal about, it's a symptom. Because if you made a commitment to be with one person and you really need to be with three people, that is an internal issue. That's an integrity issue. You have a space in your heart you're trying to fill with sex or whatever, that no matter how many people you have, that space is not going to be filled. And so really that's a person, like I said, that's not a marriage problem. That's a personal problem, a personal growth area that needs to be addressed. And sometimes people want to do couples counseling, and what they really need is personal therapy. Because some people really do need prayer, Jesus, medication, and counseling. It's not just one thing. Sometimes we need all of them. And so I think that you have to help people to really get to the real root cause and not just deal with the symptom.
Do you think that people focus that seems to be, I think when you ask, when I ask you guys what are the biggest problems with marriage, from what we hear, not a therapist, not a coach or counselor, but it's like money and cheating, right? So it's like, but I know from being married before and that marriage breaking down, there was cheating and probably money issues in there.
Right.
But then after I had time to go to therapy, sit back, look at the situation and really do self-introspection, I realized there were issues that those things were a symptom of.
Oh, absolutely.
And we are really big on focusing on the symptom, because focusing on the symptom means we can look at the other person versus really looking at ourselves and saying, well, maybe did we sit down and have a budget? Did we talk about what our expectations were about money? So it may not be a lack of money problem. It might be how you spend it. Most people don't really have a spending problem. They don't have a earning problem. They have a spending problem. They don't think that they should take into consideration something simply that we did when we were real young because we were poor. Okay, so this is how much we have. Let's talk about how we're going to spend it. And if you're going to spend any more over that amount, we need to talk to each other, have accountability.
Accountability.
That's communication. And so a part of it is that if I don't know what the budget is, we haven't talked about it, I go out and spend money. Is that a communication problem or is that a money problem?
It's probably kind of like a combination of multiple things coming into play, because if you have time and you don't really do that self-examination, I told you, we go back to this over and over and over again. You have to think about that self-examination in a relationship that you start out, maybe it was rocky. Maybe you've seen some red flags or some yellow lights that you ignored or you disregarded, or you thought, well, I can fix that or I can live with that. When you should have been saying, you know what? It may not be a deal breaker, but let's talk about this. This is what I see. This is what I feel. This is what I think. What say you? Before you make those long-term, lifelong commitments, you have to do, it's better to break off a relationship before you walk down the aisle, even though you've been investing some time, effort, and energy and some years, than to go down the aisle and then end up in divorce. That's going to do a whole lot more damage, and you're going to hurt, definitely, but it's better to break it off or have some, as they say in these day and times, non-negotiables. Those things that that are absolute with you, that are going to be a problem if they don't change. Bring those things up, talk about them, and then you'll save yourself a whole lot of heartache and trouble in the long run.
So there's a quote, and I can't think of it right now, but basically, it alludes to the fact that who you like. I think it's like bad company creates
Oh, evil association destroys good intentions.
It's something like that, but that's the idea of it. How important is it to surround yourself with other like-minded individuals? Because I see we don't see as much. It's not what people are really tuned into. People are
Mhm.
tuned into what looks good,
Yes.
but actually, like, people that are putting their marriage first. Because one of the things that surprised me, I'm like working very hard. I work a lot, and I was listening to a sermon, and the pastor's like, well, if you're married, your job is not your first priority. It has to be to your husband and to your house. And as stupid as this sounds, that shocked me because
Yeah.
my priority, and this is after I was married, and I mean,
Yeah.
I'm reasonably intelligent, but I was like, oh man, like, I'm off balance because my priority is still. I'll tell him in a second. I got work to do. I will come back to that. So other people that would hold me accountable to that are very few. Most of my friends are like, girl, work comes first, work comes first. So how important is it to attend things like this upcoming couples getaway that you all are doing, and to find other couples that are like-minded in order to stay in, to keep you like-minded?
Yeah.
It's, if you think about it, when you were little, your mother was like, you can't play with her, she's too fast, or birds of a feather flock together, and
Mhm.
if they jump off the bridge, you're gonna jump off the bridge. So all of those things are indicators that we learn by example.
Yeah.
So if we're hanging around people who are doing nothing, then more than likely we're not going to do anything. So that's one of the things about rich relationships. It's so important that you get to see it, feel it, taste it, touch it, to know that it's real and know that it can exist. And so if you have those examples and you have people around you, like you said, who can hold you accountable or call you on the carpet or even just make you aware, because I don't think it's a lack of intelligence. I think it's a lack of exposure and it's a lack of examples. Because
Mhm.
so many times the things that we learn from other people, that's why social media is good and bad, because we can learn something we didn't know.
Yeah.
But to really get the depth of something, you need to see that person in person in real life to walk alongside them. And so,
Mhm.
yes, it is crucial that you hang around people who are trying to go where you are trying to go and trying to do what you are trying to do, who are going to challenge you and encourage you and motivate you.
Mhm.
Bad company destroys good character.
That's it. That was it.
And
Still got it.
while it's a good quote, when you think about it, it is 100% true. You, especially going into a relationship with someone, you have to have someone that you are partnering with, that you are going in the same direction, down the same path, and you
Mhm.
cannot ignore your history. You cannot ignore how you grew up and the things that were instilled in you by your family members and people who shaped and molded you into this amazing person that you are. Then all of a sudden you meet this person that may not be walking the same road you have been on before you got to this relationship. And now all of a sudden you start finding yourself veering off course and you're not making the course corrections to say, you know what, I don't do that.
Yeah.
That's out of my character.
Mhm.
We tend to say, you know what, ah, everybody changes. I'll adapt, and I'll just live with it. No,
Mhm.
no, you don't want to do that because you're not being true to yourself. You have to
Yeah.
be 100% honest with yourself first. If you're not doing that, there's no way you can be honest with this person you're trying to enter into this long-term relationship with. In the long run, what's going to happen is you're going to find that you won't even know who you are anymore. You'll say, wait a minute, how did I get way out here in left field? Well, it's because I'm associated with people. You're going to be more influenced by them than you going to influence them to walk on the path you're on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very true. Well, I'm gonna put you guys on the spot a little bit because I love this. You all have the tools to help a lot of us. And I definitely, like I said, look forward to getting the workbook. But I want to ask you guys, in real time, are you able to share with us what has been one of the biggest challenges that you all have gone through in your marriage, and your relationship over the 37 years you all have been together? What is one of the biggest challenges, and how were you all able to overcome it? Like, give us the tools, and what did that look like for you? Then the beginning, in the middle, what did that feel like? And then how are you all able to get to back where we see you all in this rich relationship today?
Sure, I'll start out with one. So early in our marriage, I was very passive.
Hmm.
I wasn't very vocal about things. I would just, because I wanted this to work so bad, that I would just suppress a lot of things. I wouldn't say anything that I didn't agree with. I would just say, I'll adjust. I'll adjust. I'll adjust until the point it got to the point where it's just building on top of each other to the point where it started to become an issue for me first. And then it started manifesting in our relationship, that estrangement and that distance started growing and those things. And I knew this is not this, we weren't even at the point we're at now today. This is early in our marriage. They say that, yeah, in our first, let's just say 5 years of marriage, you know, that was something that I had to say, you know what, and recognize I have to start vocalizing how I think, how I feel, even if it's going to cause a conflict with her or I'm not going to agree with her. I have to bring it up and say something about it. And it's funny because a lot of, I think, our friends and family members just say, Gil is so laid back. He and no nothing phase him. Well, a lot of things do phase me, but we just learned in our relationship that we talk about things and we practice the things that we share with our couples. Communication has got to be the key. It is the linchpin that will get you through a lot of those difficult conversations that you're having. The ability to listen, the ability to see her and see from her perspective, even if I don't agree with it, but also she has to be able to do the same for me. And so that was something that I think share, and it doesn't end. It's ongoing. Even to this 33rd year, I still have to think about, okay, I got a problem with that. You know, I got to bring it up to her.
What was the breaking point for you? Because I think we see a lot of times there's an assumption that if a man is easygoing and passive in certain ways, that some people may say, well, he's weaker or he's, you know, he's whooped, she got him under control. Right. But and then when it turns, it's like, well, what happened?
Yeah, now it just explodes. Yeah.
Where'd that come from? He's crazy.
I think for us, the thing that kept it from exploding was he's in the military.
I retired from the military, so I was gone a lot.
So there was opportunity for him to go away. And I knew that we were at a low point in our relationship. And it was like, we would always talk about everything. And when they asked him, I was like, just go.
Not by choice. It wasn't, it wasn't by choice.
Yeah,
it was mission.
They asked him, you know, could you go on this mission? And whereas normally we would have talked about it and thought about it and contemplated, we both were like, yeah, okay, let's just go.
Because we were at that low point in our relationship where I wanted to get away from her and she wanted me out of the house. You know, so we went, and that time it was great for our relationship because I was able to do some soul searching. I was able to do some self-examination, all the things that we've been sharing with you tonight. And I said, you know what, there's some things that, Gil, you got to change. You know, there's some things that if something is bothering you, you have to bring it up and discuss it and talk about it. You know, I can't say it was just this one epiphany that said, oh, well, we just blew up and all of a sudden I heard these voices from heaven and told me what to do. It was just some self-examination, you know, and through my relationship, it helped me.
And people say absence makes the heart wander. I think absence gives the heart the opportunity to do what it wants to do anyway. So us being apart made me realize how much I loved and appreciated him and how much I knew that when I could always tell when something was bothering him and he wouldn't say anything. But I also knew pushing him wasn't going to help. Yeah. And so us being apart gave me time to learn how to help him without being a nag. And it taught him that she wants to know how you feel. Because I would always say, how do you feel? And the Lord had to teach me, men don't feel, men think. I had to change my vocabulary. And that time apart made me realize the areas where I was not helping him. And where things that I needed to learn how to do myself because we were so young. So that was a time we had apart to learn about Renee and he had to learn about Gil. And it made us so much closer. And we had to communicate by phone or writing letters. And so that was for us a really low time. And it really was, it could have gone either way. It could have gone where I decided to get a side thing and he decided to get a side thing. But we decided to focus. To me, I'm like, I'm enough. I don't need to bring nobody else into the equation. I just used that time to look at and work on me. And Gil did the same thing. And so when we came back together, it was like we realized we had just become parents. We were just focusing on the kids. We were focusing on, you know, everything except the reason why we got married. So we made a decision. We got to have a date time. We got to have a talking time. So we just kind of established all these things that we knew we needed to do. And that's when, after that, a few years later, is when we started working with other couples. Because I'm like, well, this worked for us. So maybe you can help somebody else.
Yeah. And that's all we wanted to do is say, you know what, we're not saying we got the answers to everything, but the things that we've known and we've shared, we just want to say, you know what, here, take it. use it, adapt it to your individual relationships and your personalities. And if it can work, because the foundations are there,
Yeah.
you got to listen if you want to communicate. You got to be able to use assertive speech, and you got to do those things. Everybody has to do them. It's just how you do it is going to make or break the success in your relationship.
Well, tell people about this getaway, and I mean, are there available slots? We definitely want to make sure you guys are sharing this, because I know we share some of the other conversations, but we want to share. I want to make sure that I'm supporting, and this channel is really supporting real substance. Like, we want to mix in it's edutainment, so it should be entertaining, but there should also
Mhm.
be some substance there. So tell
Mhm.
people more about this upcoming getaway. I'm definitely going to check and see
Yeah.
if my husband and I are able to come, and a good friend of ours, I have a girlfriend that Miss Shanika, she and I went on. Iyanla Fixed My Life. We were both single. Iyanla checked us all the way. It was us. We didn't think it was. And both of us got married, but we are accountability partners for each other. And so I realized sometimes my conversation is like, oh, I need to talk to someone who is focused on doing the same things that I am, and the same
Yeah.
thing with her and some of my other friends. I've cut just, a lot of friends around me are in this space. So talk to us about what we can expect, and what do you guys want couples to get out of this? If they can't attend this one, is just maybe this is something that other people can start to mimic and follow as well. So what can people expect from this upcoming couples getaway?
If it was up to me, we would do one of these a month all over the world. But it's not just up to me. So,
Yeah.
because we work with couples, so many couples virtually during the pandemic, and because so many of our friends live all over the country, and we haven't been able to be in the same space and touch them, we felt that this would be a good way to start getting couples into the habit, because you tell couples you need to steal away and make your marriage first. So why not show them how to do that? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's going to be overnight, because most couples may not be able to afford to go away for a whole weekend. So it's just an overnight, and it's designed to have them. We'll do sessions of where we're giving them application and what to do, but it's going to be really interactive. We're
Okay.
going to eat together. We're going to hike together. So it's going to be a real time, because we've gone to marriage retreats before and we kind of left like, I don't really feel like it did
Yeah, it's
anything.
it's just a whole bunch of talking, and that's okay, and that helps, and we're not downing any of that, but we're more activity, not necessarily run and play and jump and just forget about what we here for. It's going to be some work to be done, but you also got to have a time where you go and practice what you've heard
Mm-hmm.
individually, where you can steal away with your spouse, or you're and say, you know what, this is what I heard. What did you hear? It's kind of like a guided conversation, also with the things that you're going to hear and the things that you're going to actually be able to do, but also in a corporate setting, just like you said, being around some like-minded individuals who are saying, you know what, I want to work on my relationship too. I want it to be successful. I want it to be helpful. And then you can meet some other couples, not just the people you run with right now, but that are outside of your normal circle, to
Mm-hmm.
extend, your sphere, to say, you know what, there are people out there that have that just like me factor, that says, you know what, I want a successful marriage. I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want those things that you see on the dramas, that you see the reality shows that may just be there for entertainment, but I want to do the real work that's going to help us in a relationship. So we're still in the planning stages. We're still coming together to get it all together, but it's going to be in
September
she's
the
coordinating everything.
It's September. It's going to be one night, the 17th and the 18th. And it's really designed to not have any downtime, where you get there Friday, but you don't do anything Friday. So when you get there on Saturday morning, we'll do a 2-hour session. Then we'll have lunch together. We have exercises for whatever topic we teach. We're going to have an application time of that. And
Mm-hmm.
then the couples will have an intimacy exercise to do at night together
Not what you're
as a
thinking.
couple.
No, not that. Not that.
I think we're good on
That's
this.
for
It's
real.
gonna be that
Yeah.
too. It's
See, that's
gonna
what
be that
I'm
too.
We got that down.
Yeah, yeah. You don't need no help with that part, bro.
Yeah, because most people don't realize that you can have intimacy without sex,
See, that's a whole nother topic.
and
We're
you
not
can
gonna share it
have
all now.
sex
Don't give
without
it all to him, babe.
intimacy.
Don't give it all to him.
So we want to just help couples, and some couples don't know how to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm a very focused, driven person. We are bad at having fun. So
Yeah.
we want to try to start doing things like this, because it's gonna push us out of our comfort zone, but we can share our strengths, and this is going to strengthen our growth areas as well. So it's twofold. It's going to help the couples that we work with, but it's going to also help us, because we like to be together. We enjoy having fun together, and sometimes just seeing other couples do that, you're like, y'all been together for so long, y'all still do stuff together.
That's huge. People, because I have a friend, a good friend, actually, is my producer, and he and his wife been married for almost 12 years, and they are still all. I mean, he is all over her all the time, and I'm like, really? But that, you know, as trivial as it may seem, it's actually encouraging
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's so obvious that he's still so in love with his wife,
Yeah.
and she's so receptive to that. So that's beautiful to see.
Yeah.
So you guys, if you're interested in learning more, if you want to get the workbook, if you definitely want to sign up for the getaway,
Yeah.
definitely the website is right
Yep.
there on their nameplate, which is relationshipsus.com. I want to ask you all before I let you go, what is your relationship, your definition of a rich relationship? That, like I said, is what attracted me. I was like, oh, this is something that's interesting because it wasn't what we thought. We think there's actually there's people use rich in a lot of different ways. There's
Right.
you guys know what I'm thinking of. It's a lot of different ways that people are talking about rich and money and high value and all these things. But for the two of you, what is your definition of a rich relationship that you speak of for your ministry?
Go ahead.
When I think of rich, I think of a relationship that is not perfect, but a relationship that not only feeds each other, but you have something that can leave as an example and a legacy, so that long after you're gone, you have something that's going to continue to produce other relationships and other families. So I don't think of it as just as a monetary thing. I think it as, if you have something that's good for you, then it should be able to leave something for someone else as well.
And you think about that word rich, it doesn't just connotate finances. It's bringing value to something. And that's what we
Yes.
really want to do, is bring value to the relationship area, the relationship arena, to where you say, you know what, I may be broke right now, but I can get value from this, and maybe a book or a conference or a talk or the podcast, all the other things that we put out there, to say, you know what, I have some valuable input that I've accepted into my relationship that I'm going to incorporate and make it stronger and make it more valuable to my significant other.
And I think the most valuable thing that we can give to each other is love. And that's something that everyone needs and wants and can have an abundance of. And so to me, that's what rich is to me.
I love that because I agree. I am anti this idea that high value is solely equivalent to how much money you make or how young or beautiful you look. I think that is a problem because
It is.
money can come and go. You know, I know
The
people that
beauty
are
fades.
Yep.
millionaires one day and something happened and they go through something. So if you are basing who you fall in love with or who you open yourself up to love based solely on their bank account, you're not going to find the type of love that will really feed your soul. So that's why I have so much appreciation and respect for what you guys are doing. Like I said, I look forward to seeing you all in September. I'm going to order that book, and I urge you all, even people that are not in relationships. I've been in a relationship for a short period of time. We've been together 3 years, but before that, I was hosting these type conversations because I wanted to speak positivity and feed that to other people, and it came back to me. And so I believe that, you know, just because you may not be there yet doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen and be working on those things, working on yourself, so that when you are blessed with the relationship, you will be, you know, a little ahead. You still gonna have work to do because you're always gonna have work, but at least you will be in the mindset to receive, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We always say that if you can be the best version of you, then you're giving the person someone that means something to you. So many times we want the other person to have it all together and we're giving them junk. You're going to get what you give.
Absolutely.
You need to be what you're looking for and stop looking for somebody to make you who you should already be when you come into a relationship.
There you go. Well, that is a beautiful note to end this on. Thank you all so much, Gil and Renee. We all need to write that down. You all make sure that you follow them. You can visit the website and, like I said, get the workbook, and also find out more about the couples getaway as well. Again, thank you all for doing what you do and setting a beautiful example and allowing us to see that, you know, in real time. That means a lot. People can say things, but you actually are able to see them saying, these are our strengths, these are our growth areas. That's my last reality check for tonight. As opposed to saying weaknesses, we're gonna rename weaknesses as growth areas. Yes.
Yes. And
Well,
be encouraged. we
Yes, I
encourage all
love
your
it.
audience, reach out to us,
Yeah.
via the website. You can make contact with us that way. What you see here is what we are. So
Yeah.
we will actually respond. We don't have a team. This is the team.
Well, I
This is
reached
it.
out and they hit me back, and I was like, I want them to come on the show because I just wanted to have something to break up the monotony of all the TV reality love, which that's fun and
Yeah.
entertaining, and I believe that you can actually find love anywhere. But
Yeah.
once you get there,
What do
we
you
need some
do?
examples of how to maintain it and sustain it. And
Yeah.
so there is a beauty in relying on the wisdom of those that have done it before us. And
Amen.
that's what we're doing with you all. So thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
me.
so
Thank
much.
you for being so receptive to coming on and sharing with our audience your story. And I look forward to having you guys back. And like I said, hopefully to seeing you all in September.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you so
Thank you
much.
so
We
much.
appreciate you. Pray that you have many, many, many years of a rich relationship with your husband.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You all have a beautiful night and we'll talk soon.
Alrighty.
Okay. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. All right, you all. They're absolutely adorable. I could just eat them both up. They're so cute. But thank you guys for hanging out. You guys stay right there. And yes, Kiki, thank you so much. Make sure that you like and share this interview. I know, we share all the salacious stuff that gets people talking, but let's share something that's positive and that can encourage people. I love what they said about everything will drift. And what do you do when something drifts? You give it an anchor. That was huge because we have this idea of as soon as something doesn't suit me anymore, I'm on to the next thing. Speaking of something not suiting me and being on to the next thing, you guys stay there because we're coming right back. Right back. If you're watching on Facebook, just stay tuned. Go grab something to eat. Come stay right there because we are coming back with Dakia from Ready to Love. And I know after seeing the second part of the reunion, we have a lot to talk to this young lady about. So I will see you all right back here at 9 p.m. Eastern. That means you have 9 minutes to go grab you a snack, grab you a glass of wine, and I will see you guys right back here. All right. I love you for watching. This is, of course, has been Crystal Jordan with your reality check for tonight. Remember, everything is going to drift. Make sure that you have an anchor. I'll see you guys in a few minutes.